Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into a text that's, well, over a century old, but honestly, it feels like it was written literally for our modern, overstimulated minds. We're talking about Rainer Maria Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. Published in 1929, this whole thing is way more than just a collection of letters. It's a profound spiritual and artistic manifesto. Seriously, whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or really just someone trying to figure out how to live a more authentic life, Rilke's insights are absolutely game-changing. So let's jump right in and uncover the timeless wisdom hidden inside this famous correspondence.
So it all started back in 1903. Picture this, a 19-year-old aspiring poet named Franz Xaver Kappus sends his poems to the much older, established Rilke. Kappus is basically asking, hey, are my poems any good? He's seeking external validation. We've all been there. But Rilke, he flat out refuses to judge Kappus's work. He tells him that looking outside for approval is a complete trap. Instead, Rilke flips the script entirely. He challenges Kappus, and really, by extension all of us, with a single piercing question: must I write? Rilke argued that true art just can't be evaluated by external critics. It can only be evaluated by the creator's own profound inner need to create it.
And that brings us right to this concept of inner necessity. Now, what's super interesting here is that Rilke isn't talking about a hobby or, a modern side hustle. He defines inner necessity as a state where creating isn't a choice you make for applause. It is literally a destiny required for the very survival of your soul. Heavy, right? But Rilke was actually deeply practical about how to find this. He advised Kappus to journal daily, not for an audience, but entirely for himself. He said you have to mine your childhood memories, your everyday experiences, and your inner silence for inspiration. Bottom line, if you can still survive without writing, he argued, well, then you simply shouldn't write at all.
To really ground this philosophical journey, let's look at the timeline, because this wasn't just some quick weekend seminar. This was a real, evolving human relationship spanning 5 whole years, from 1903 to 1908, across 10 profound letters. We journey from that initial call to inner necessity, through deep explorations of solitude and nature, all the way to a final meditation on mortality. It's this slow, deliberate drip of wisdom being passed from a mentor to his student.
Section 1. Embrace solitude and silence.
So here we find one of Rilke's most radical reframings, originally shared in Letter 4. Society constantly tells us that being alone is a problem to be fixed, right? That it's loneliness, a heavy burden. But Rilke completely rejects that. He separates the two, defining solitude not as isolation, but as incredibly fertile ground for creativity. He urges us to actually lean into the anxiety of being alone, transforming it into a true creative gift. Think about it. When you are alone, things get ambiguous and uncertain, and Rilke says we absolutely shouldn't run from that ambiguity. We should walk right through it, because it's the actual doorway to self-discovery.
In Letter 2, Rilke offers this incredibly beautiful metaphor. Art matures slowly like fruit ripening in the sun. Now remember, Rilke was writing in the early 1900s, but honestly, he could easily be talking to us today in the age of instant gratification and social media. He strongly warned against using shallow irony just to seem clever, and he cautioned against this desperate rush to publish or share your work immediately. True, organic growth requires immense patience. You can't mechanically force a piece of fruit to ripen, and you definitely cannot force your own personal or artistic development. You just have to learn to wait.
So how do we actually do this? Well, across letters 3, 4, and 7, Rilke gives us some highly actionable steps. Step 1. Protect your solitude from criticism. Rilke believed criticism really can't grasp the mystery of art anyway, so you should limit your exposure to external opinions and reviews. Step 2. Use silence not just as an absence of noise, but as an active daily practice. Actually schedule intentional time for it. In Step 3, observe nature mindfully. Watch the seasons change. Pay attention to the small details. Rilke was advocating for mindfulness way before it was a modern buzzword, recognizing that true creativity roots itself in absolute presence, not in spectacle.
Section 2. Navigating love and sadness.
Building on his ideas about solitude, Letter 5 offers a truly radical vision of love. He explicitly warns against rushing into relationships simply to cure loneliness. Instead, he argues that love, exactly like art, requires deep maturity. The absolutely crucial point here is that two individuals must first learn to stand completely alone. They have to cultivate their own independence before they can truly unite. For Rilke, a healthy relationship doesn't erase your individuality. In fact, true love must protect and expand the solitude of both partners.
Then, in letter 6, Rilke tackles sadness. Usually, we view sadness as something purely negative, right? A pain to be avoided, or maybe medicated away immediately. But Rilke flips this entirely, offering a perspective that feels incredibly modern and, honestly, trauma-informed. He argues that we should actually welcome sadness as a teacher. When we endure difficult emotions, sadness deepens the soul. It carves out a greater capacity within us, which ultimately prepares the soul to experience even greater joy down the line. It's a really profound shift in perspective.
Section 3. Living the questions. In letter 8, Kappus and Rilke touch on faith. Here, Rilke draws a super sharp line between institutional dogma, which he sees as rigid and externally imposed, and personal spirituality, which is deeply intimate. He strongly believed that true faith doesn't come from blindly following the rules of a massive institution. Instead, true spirituality arises directly from inner experience. He encourages the creation of personal rituals that nourish your own unique inner life, telling Kappus to trust his spiritual instincts above absolutely all else.
Moving to letter 9, we find arguably Rilke's most famous and enduring piece of advice: live the questions rather than seek quick answers. So often, when we face uncertainty, we just panic. We want an immediate resolution to feel safe. But Rilke says, no, uncertainty is not a bug in the system, it's a feature. It is not a problem to be solved, but a real path to wisdom. He advises us to write down our big, unanswerable questions, and then literally live inside them. Just let life slowly reveal the answers over time.
Section 4. The Final Transformation.
In his final letter, written in December 1908, Rilke turns to the very heavy topic of death. But in true Rilke fashion, he doesn't view it with dread. He advises Kappus to contemplate mortality not as a final, terrifying end, but as a vital, transformative part of life's natural cycle. The crucial point here is that to live authentically, one must bravely accept mortality. Art and life, for Rilke, are these intertwined journeys of becoming. Acknowledging that our time is limited isn't meant to cause despair. Not at all. It's meant to clarify our focus, lift our spirits, and deeply enrich the way we live our lives right now.
Okay, let's bring this all together. What started as advice to a young, anxious poet transforms into a timeless manual for all of us. If you take away anything from this explainer, let it be these core pillars. First, nurture your inner necessity. Create because you absolutely must. Second, aggressively protect your solitude. It is your most fertile ground. Third, resist the urge to rush. Let your work and yourself ripen patiently. Fourth, don't run from pain. Welcome sadness as a tool that creates immense depth in your soul. And finally, when faced with the great unknowns of life, simply live the questions.
Which leaves us right here. Rilke challenged Franz Xaver Kappus well over 100 years ago, and now that exact challenge is passed to you. Instead of rushing for a quick fix or an easy resolution to whatever challenges you're facing right now, how will you live your questions today? Think about that as you go about your week. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next one.